I'm Miles Baker here with world champion healer Kollin VonAhn. We're going to break down some of the runs. We're 3 rounds deep into the Wrangler National Finals. We picked a few teams out that we think are kind of highlights so far, and we're going to talk about these runs and what we expect to see them keep doing going forward into the week.
Get ready to go.
Watch that horse. Boy, this could be fast. Can he heal it? He does. Perfect time to do it again tonight.
First up, Tanner Tomlinson, Patrick Smith. Tanner, obviously a NFR rookie. He's coming out, has spun 3 good steers. They got a round win last night. This was their first run, the only one they had any bobble on at all. Pat got a leg on this one. Come back, healed 2 really good, made some little adjustments. Kollin, what did you see on this run right here?
Tanner's obviously roping a great roping. This steer was tougher to heel. I thought Pat got a little close in the turn, but this steer is going to be very hard to heel. Opened up once, is going to get short and tight in here. To me, one of the adjustments I believe that they've made and is getting better as the week goes, this head horse wants to be a little bit out front and a little wide. And that's what causes this steer to be able to open up and come down the arena and get his back too straight. As we go in the next 2 rounds, we'll see that I think he gets hooked on to a better spot. His horse gets out front just a tick too fast, and now we're at this angle. Steer hits, next one he's going to swing, his back straight, and then we're going to see the timing of the steer is going to be changed to smaller shuffles to where we're really not pulling anymore, and he come off the swing.
Yep. So basically what's happening is when he hits and goes down the arena like he did here, he's catching up now, but his shoulders are going to come at this angle for a second, and it shortens this hop up. Probably cuts the hop in half, more or less.
Cuts the hop in half, and then you'll see a cow's butt actually swings to the inside, and so it actually, even on this little short hops, his butt swings to the inside, and as we're trying to get our bottom strand and tip to pull clear through the other side
hop
of the cow.
Yep. You can see here the steer's shoulders come here, and his hips are coming to the inside like Kollin's talking about. But
we're looking at like 6-8 inches of difference.
Right.
But that's a lot when you're trying to be 3 and you're trying to get your loop to pull all the way through.
Yep, 100%. So round 2, like we talked about on round 2, each night seemed like it progressively got better and they were catching their stride. And after watching the run last night, it looks pretty dangerous, but this is obviously a really good run right here. You can see, we'll watch it in full speed and then look at it again. A little bit of the same thing. Patrick does a great job healing right here.
This one compares a hair, and most of it is Tanner is such an aggressive guy, and like I say, it's fast. And right here, when he gets to this spot and his horse is at this angle, this cow's actually stepping to the right. And so in order for this to be perfect, he actually needs to take a deep breath and let this cow start around him just a hair. And he's going to be in just a tick of a hurry and get out front, which is going to make the steer actually switch. His hips are going to come back to the inside. And right here is the angle. Now all of a sudden his horse is actually still headed up arena, and we have a cow being pulled back this way. Well, there's no way for him to keep the cow 100%. And so now our hips come in. Pat does a really good job of catching this cow, which Tanner, first time here, he's getting better, loses a little bit of the jitters. We're starting to see already by the 3rd round how this is polishing up, and he's as dangerous as anybody in this arena.
It's looking real good. And one thing, I got to sit in on some of the practices leading up to this with Trevor and them talking, but one thing I know that Trevor really had him focusing on is riding to the cow right here. A lot of times the guys that are as talented as him, they're going to go right down the rail, be widening, and that left wall, I've heard it as long as I've followed team roping about how fast that left wall in this arena comes up. But you can see here he went to the cow, sticks it on him, and has everything tight going up, and tweaked some things in round 3 from what round 1 and 2 were. But it's letting him give Pat a jump or 2 or 3 jumps before the wall's affecting their run.
Which is a good thing about what they have going too. He's riding his horse so well across the line to the steer. His horse is almost borderline free to me. And here we are at the 3rd round. Well, that's a good problem to have.
Good feeling.
To where I see them getting faster and faster. And some of this probably where I'm picking on him about coming up the arena and getting a hold of him, I think his horse is just a tick free right now, which is the way you want to start a 10-header in this building.
Well, picture perfect run right here. It would be hard to pick that apart in any kind of way.
Unbelievable run. And this is where talent, man, this guy comes across here, drills a barrier, smokes the horns, and I give Pat a little credit on the first 2. You cannot miss that one.
You can tell the difference in this steer compared to what we were watching a second ago. Because at this angle, the horse and the steer are both pretty dang parallel. He steps in front, letting this cow hit out here in front of Pat. And then you can tell here, by his left hand, he's drawing that horse back. He's not going to let him get weak and hit and go downstream. Pat heels him fast. And you can tell on the second one, you could see how the steer kind of broke his stride and got to trotting out, and that steer's hitting clean. He has a hold of his head the whole time. We've talked about that a lot, you know, a header giving the steer his head back and slipping legs, and he just did an amazing job keeping that steer's head, coming tight, getting a good finish. And what I like about this run is your left wall's over here. He didn't even get close to it, and the steer was great. But, you know, a lot of times if he leaves the box and is coming this way and he hooks that steer,
everything's going to be tight.
Yeah.
That's what this is about, as good a job as you can do, in my opinion. Very good steer, but you got to catch the good ones, and they beat him up.
That was your round 3 win. If it keeps going like that, it won't be the last one those guys get.
When they let Tanner Tomlinson get a little confidence in here, the guy is awesome. He starts getting a little confidence in here, and really, there's no telling how good he's going to be toward the end of the week.
All right, Andrew and Buddy, they caught their stride last year and haven't let it up. They're winning the average right now, and that's a good look for them because that's their game. They seems like they can make this same run over and over. We were talking earlier, and you said I can't see Andrew missing one, and just knowing Andrew and this team, it's hard to imagine that they stubbed their toe very bad.
They picked right up where they left off. I expect them to catch 10 more clean. This steer I thought was one of the tougher ones they run for Buddy's sake. And maybe Andrew's horse got opened up just a hair early, which is gonna let this steer run and not get pulled soon enough. But them guys, they're so good at never panicking and getting a clean run. Buzz does a perfect job.
So when you say opened up,
to me, that horse, right before he throws his rope, this horse wants to step, and then that's going to put him at an angle on the fence that he has to come back, and now he's got too much width that it's not like the more he slows down, the more it's going to swing the steer.
Right.
Andrew being so good at handling a steer, see, he's just basically got to sit here and wait, and we have a lot of width here. Well, that lets the steer kind of round and run to where he's not really pulling him too hard up the arena, but
he kind of it sped that steer's
steer's hops up a little. One thing about it, if Andrew makes a mistake, this is the mistake he makes, and he does it every time, to where Buds knew exactly what
Yep.
the cow was going to do before it ever happened.
Yeah, that's what I like watching about these guys. They rope so good together. But we'll watch this next run, and I want to talk about what you and I talked about, the comparison between Andrew's head horse and the one Tanner's riding, a Coy Rallman's. And we were talking about how both of these horses have a tendency to want to aim themselves at that back left fence, where you see a lot of horses dropping and coming back to the left corner.
Yep.
These horses want to step up and widen, and obviously there's pros and cons to that, but it's going to keep these horses, or by round 10, they're probably a little more honest than horses that are wanting to come back.
I don't think either one of their two horses are ever going to get too tight in this arena. If they do the way that these two get tight is by getting too wide too soon.
Yep.
And so what Andrew does a great job is right in this angle. Even though he's out front, he's actually going to hit a spot where he pauses and lets the cow catch up. See, he's not gaining no more distance, and then it just sets the steer on the end of it, to where that one, that steer was, as easy to heel as a heel-o-matic.
Yep. I'm watching Andrew's left hand right here, but a lot of times you can watch from home and see when guys rope and they're trying to get their horses pushed up from beating them, and you can see Andrew's left hand, he's got it up here right in the middle of his horse's neck. He's just pushing forward, but you can tell he's not fighting that horse. And then what he does good is, like you said, when he needs to pause and let that cow come up, he don't pause and let the cow step down the arena. He's pausing and holding his horse's shoulders back right here and keeping that cow opened up, where he has a good line, he has the cow's head, and he hasn't let his horse's shoulders come back this way. So he has control. Everything's opened up. It makes Bud's job easy. They get a good finish.
Great run.
Setting them up for them leading the average. Go into round 3 on this next run, and man, they did a really good job. I thought this is still the round 2 we just watched, but round 3 I thought Bud's did a good job setting his loop down and getting him caught and keeping them out front where they want to be. That steer was a little funny leaving right there. I was sitting right over by the head box watching, and I thought it nearly looked like when you're heading a low-headed steer, and that's Andrew, which you know as good as anybody. He can open his head loop up and make sure he catches as good as anybody.
That's what I thought. Little tough start. Very good job to not break the barrier. Steer almost kind of falls out of there versus leaves sharp. If there was ever a round to be a little long, this is a good one. He's on his knees right here.
Man, that was tough right there. I can't see the steer before he nods. I guess right when he nodded,
he went down. We're just trying to fix him. He's on his knees.
Golly. That makes that tough right there, because you know he can't see the steer's head or anything. But watching it in real time, I thought, man, that steer must have been low-headed, based on which I can't tell you how many times Andrew's beat me at jackpots on bad-headed cattle.
He roped so good.
It wasn't necessarily the low-headed steer. It was just a funky go.
Fell out of the chute. And I think this was kind of, from the start, probably for these guys' run, this one probably felt a little bit more. We're in survival mode. Andrew still gets it on the steer fast to have him fall out. I think such a tough round last night. Just as easily could have been 4-8 and not 1-0. Mm-hmm. They did a good job of making a clean run and surviving another day.
Yep. Man, that just seemed tough. What do you just say? He stays with the...
I think he's around the neck, and in a bad spot before it's all done. Yeah. But Bud's, this is why Bud's is worth his weight in gold, man.
Yeah, this is what we were just discussing. This is where Buddy's so amazing. This steer, a lot of times they'll take the neck really good. This steer did not, and it wasn't necessarily. I mean, Andrew has a pretty good angle coming out, it wasn't like he just tried to jerk steer's head off his shoulders. He did a good job, and that steer still hits down the arena away from buds and then does it again, when normally right here you're thinking that steer's going to hook up and
Be straight.
And he just he hits away from him again. And I'm no healer, but the discipline to stay down with your loop right there and not. I would rope. You probably don't remember. I remember roping the sawhorse with you one time. You was like, stay down with it. Don't touch it. Don't pick it up. You have to stay down with it. And I was sitting right over here in the stands watching, and I couldn't see the steer's feet, but I could tell that there was a lot of hesitation there letting that steer get in his loop.
If Buds doesn't do the perfect job of, he's throwing the steer's feet, he's actually completely out of time. And for him to, his mind to be going slow enough that he leaves his loop down there basically for another whole stride, that's unbelievable. That's why they own the record of catching 10, because that one was not easy.
Yeah, that's 100% thinking through it and being in survival mode and making it work. We'll go on to the next guys. Kaleb and Junior, obviously one of the most dominant team this year, but one of the most dominant teams over the last few years. And man, they're doing what they always do. It looks good. Got a leg last night in round 3, but Driggers had a horse change, and no matter what Driggers gets on, that's what's crazy about his horses, is how good they are at everything. And I see these guys to just keep plugging along and probably not giving up any of the gap that they have on everybody.
The only thing left impressive for these two to do is win the average.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're not going to be shocked at. They're no doubt going to set the earnings record. They're going to every record that was there to be broken, they can do. Probably the only thing that they can do that would be impressive at this point is win the average.
Yep.
They're down one leg. That
Which
is
I think
not.
there's right now at this point we just have one team that is straight up. Is that right?
I believe these are the only two that are straight up. Buds and Andy are the only ones straight up on 2, and it's a long week. The thing you got to be careful about Kaleb and Junior is with the amount of steers left, they can gain 5 seconds on you. You don't want to go to a 10-header with them and let them rope a leg on the 3rd one and think you're going to cruise through and beat them. They can get their 5 seconds off here, no problem, and probably fairly comfortable for these guys. And so, to me, they're just about to really get the ball rolling. They're so dominant. Their horses are so good. I see them having a great week. This is how it's supposed to look, in my opinion.
Something I always notice with Kaleb, and his horses are they're so solid, and he can do, you and I talked about, he can step them up, he can bring them back. He's always in a good spot to finish, but I always notice his runs, how much room he gives his healer before he gets to the wall. And it happens really, their 3rd round steer come left pretty good, but he still got some jumps out of him. But Junior takes a good shot right here. That's all day for them guys. And still so much room over here on this side of the arena. And we see it with Andrew too, the way they can step up, get the steers hooked up, bring them back, and not necessarily pause, but just let that steer hit for the healer without change. It's almost like a lot of times you'll get one good hop, but you might not get 2. And it seems like with these guys that when they get them going, there's a couple good looks to make sure that.
I think a lot of that's a testament to how well their horses are under control, and then the mental clarity that they have to actually tell themselves to slow down.
Yep.
And that is so hard to do when you're trying to be 3. And you can watch him right there. His horses are listening to him so well, and he picks his hand up, slows down. The steer, I mean.
This is a tough steer too. I don't realize how much that steer steps right, but that's a testament to these horses leaving and running to the cow for a minute, where, with this setup, you can be so fast or so close to the cow right here, it's probably real easy to just plan on breaking straight or breaking this way. And that's where I say Kaleb's horses impressed me so much, because that horse is having to read the cow so fast right here, because if the cow's straight, I promise you that horse is straight. If he's left, that horse is left. But he's the toughest situation possible to the right, and that horse does not hang. It's free with him through his throw. That's pretty amazing for a horse that's already been in this setup and knows what can happen in this arena.
I couldn't agree more. Just outside the fact that that's just amazing heading, because you have a steer that splits the gates and goes right and never breaks stride, but I think that is because his horse is on rails, straight shoulders, straight hips, straight to the cow. And that makes this look like a practice pen run on Sunday afternoon.
It makes the people at home think they can make the same run. It makes me think I can make the same run. You see, it's like exact same run. Steer's a little bit straighter, but that's what impresses me with these guys, that this is a completely different steer, different pattern. He's straight down the middle, left leaded, and the run doesn't look any different. And he steers straight, steers left leaded, and still, once again, he makes it look like there's a lot of real estate in that arena, and we all know there is not.
Well, that's what I think by him slowing down. Instead of coming over here just to the left wall, their run is actually coming at this angle all the way to the farthest point. And in order to do that, you have to have your horse square and going to the steer. So right here, as this goes on, he's being so patient letting this steer come, and he has to let this horse make a move all the way to this left corner, where a normal horse wants to step out here. Now our left wall is going to come into play.
Yep.
And so he's so patient, basically keeping really good footwork with his horse. And then you're going to look up and you're like, man, he could have pulled him clear to the left corner before it ever breaks stride.
Yeah, and what impresses me is, like you said, the ability for his mind to slow down, him knowing what's
Where
coming.
everything's at.
He never lets this steer hit down the arena too far. No. That's the farthest he ever hits. If he doesn't stay with this angle and he's already peeling his horse back over himself, that steer washes out, and he's going to that. After they wash out, that hop right there is not going to be with them feet together. It's going to be long and sprawled out, easy to slip a leg, easy to rope a leg, and like we said a minute ago, that they make that run look like anyone could make it.
That's the scary thing about them too. Junior can catch the cow if the legs are going every different direction. Now you have Driggers trying to put them in a mason jar. That's nothing nice.
Third round, the only time we seen a little bobble, got a leg. Kaleb switched horses, which a horse change for him is not a big deal at all. His horses are so good, and every one of them let him do exactly what he wants to do.
That's about like picking a pair of socks. It really doesn't matter. And I think this is the only mistake. Steer goes left a little, to me, is what's gonna start the mistake. Like I say, great round for it to happen. Steer steps right here at this angle. This horse, first time in the arena, I think that horse could have actually pulled the cow a little more. The actual turn of it was easy. Still brought the steer through the exact same way he did on the others. Junior's expecting right here when the steer hits out for that steer to leave him some, and he really didn't. Shortens his stride up. Junior's just a tick close. They could run that steer again and not make a mistake. Yeah, it will not happen.
Nope. Yeah, it impresses me how much easier, which he's got a guy behind him that he can make it as difficult as he wants, and he's still going to heel him, but how good he makes it for his healers right here. And like I said, we watched a steer that went right, we watched a steer that went straight, and we watched a steer that went left, and the only thing different about this steer is he hits just a little bit farther right here, but he's clean on this hop. And like we talked about, the steer shortens his stride a little bit, but that don't happen. He can make this angle with the steer, and like you said, pull all the way to this corner. And if worse comes to worse and Junior doesn't get tapped off, he still has a few hops to make sure he gets him caught and they stay in the average.
Junior don't miss out with a place.
No, 100%. But I look forward. These three teams are tapped off and rolling, and I look forward to seeing them win a lot going forward. Tanner, like I said, him having his confidence in this arena is scary, and these guys that they don't have to have the confidence. What they do so solid, it's good. But they're out front and have a huge gap on everybody. It's Andrew and Buddy leading the average. No surprise. What are we at? 13 steers now that they've run in this building that they're straight up on.
13 clean steers.
Clean steers.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So these three teams, look for them to keep plugging away at it and do good and win a lot of money. And there's some teams that we're going to talk about later in the week and see what happens these next 3 or 4 rounds and break some of it down. You know, Lightning at this point, he catches his stride in there. He can be super fast. He's been real aggressive, and I don't know that he might not think he doesn't need to be aggressive, and then he's just as fast as,
you know, he's got a little bit of the it always stinks getting off to the wrong foot, but one thing about that guy, he can turn it around in one cow and look out. Great field of guys. I look for the ones that have struggled to start finding their stride. These guys that have their stride, it's going to be hard to slow them down.
Hard to catch them. Yep. Clay and Jade, they're going to keep winning money.
Yep.
Jade got a leg last night and probably surprised us all. You don't see that guy mess up very often, and I would say that doesn't happen again unless something crazy happens. Chad and Joseph, they got it rolling last night, and I think it's going to keep getting tough. Guys are about to know, you know, they run the steers through.
This is our rerun pin.
But you know how it is. Steers can be different in a slack than they are in a perf, and now every steer starting tonight has went during the rodeo, and guys are going to know what they have. That's going to give them a better idea of how it goes, and I think it's going to get tough. I'm excited to watch it every night, and man, there's just a lot of good teams, and the ones that did get off to a rough start it's pretty scary seeing them. You know, Tyler and Trey, Lightning and Jonathan. It's teams that are real dangerous that didn't get off to a great start and that can come back this last 2/3 and really ring a bell.
Absolutely. It'll be good watching. Lot of rodeo left. Lot of things are going to change, and as always, there's always a surprise that nobody expects. So.
Yeah, 100%. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. We'll be back in a few rounds to see how it's going and see where it's going from there.
Get ready to go.
Watch that horse. Boy, this could be fast.